In the vast and brutal history of the Roman Empire, there are tales of glorious victory and catastrophic defeat. But there is one story that is neither. It is a story that ends not with a bang or a whimper, but with an unnerving absolute silence. It is the story of the Legio Nona Hispana, the Ninth Legion, a veteran fighting force of over 5,000 Roman soldiers who, one day, marched into the mists of northern Britain and vanished from the pages of history forever. For centuries, their disappearance has been one of Rome's greatest unsolved mysteries. Were they annihilated in a secret, bloody last stand? Did they desert, or was their fate something else entirely? Welcome to the Histify. Today, we march north to the edge of the Roman world to investigate the legend, the evidence, and the enduring mystery of the lost Ninth Legion. To understand the legend, we must first understand the Legion. The Ninth Legion was no ordinary unit. They were seasoned veterans, forged in the brutal campaigns of Spain, which earned them their name, Hispana. They fought alongside Julius Caesar in the Gallic Wars. They were part of the invasion force that conquered Britain in 43 AD. They were a tough, reliable, and battle-hardened symbol of Roman power. Their final posting was on the empire's most savage and difficult frontier, northern Britain. In the early 2nd century AD, province of Britannia was a constant headache for Rome. The south was relatively pacified, but the north, the wild, misty lands of Caledonia, modern Scotland, was home to fierce, independent tribes the Romans called the Picts. These were warriors who refused to bow to Roman rule, masters of guerrilla warfare who used the unforgiving terrain to their advantage. The stage was set for a classic empire versus barbarian clash. And this is where the most popular and enduring story of the Ninth Legion's fate begins. The year is 117 AD. A massive uprising of the Pictish tribes has set the north of Britain ablaze. Roman forts are being overrun. In response, the governor of Britain orders the Ninth Legion to march north from their fortress at Eburach, modern-day York, to crush the rebellion and restore order. Led by their commander, the legion of 5,000 men marches deep into the misty, unfamiliar highlands of Caledonia. But the Picts are not waiting for an open battle. They are watching. They are hunting. They lure the overconfident Roman column deeper and deeper into a trap. In a narrow, fog-choked glen, the Picts spring their ambush. Tens of thousands of screaming, blue-painted warriors swarm down from the hillsides, overwhelming the Romans from all sides. The disciplined legionaries form their defensive squares, but they are surrounded, outnumbered, and fighting in terrain that negates their tactical advantages. What follows is a desperate, brutal, and heroic last stand. The Ninth Legion fights to the last man, their eagle standard eventually falling into the mud, a symbol of Rome's authority swallowed by the northern mists. The entire legion is annihilated, wiped from existence. This dramatic tale has been the dominant theory for centuries. It explains why the Ninth Legion simply disappears from all known Roman records after about 120 AD, the construction of Hadrian's Wall, a massive defensive fortification across the north of England that began just a few years later. It's been interpreted as a direct response to this military catastrophe, a permanent line drawn in the stone. As if to say, this far and no further. It is a powerful, romantic, and tragic story. But is it true? In recent decades, a new generation of historians and archaeologists has begun to challenge this famous legend. Like detectives examining a cold case, they have uncovered new evidence that casts serious doubt on the story of the Ninth's annihilation in Scotland. The most compelling evidence comes not from Britain, but from the Netherlands. At a site called Nijmegen, archaeologists discovered inscriptions, roof tiles, and other military records stamped with the official insignia of the Ninth Legion. Crucially, these findings date to around 121 AD, after the Legion was supposed to have been wiped out in Britain. This suggests that at least a significant detachment of the Ninth was transferred from Britain to the Rhine frontier to work on construction projects. Further evidence has emerged across the empire. Inscriptions mentioning soldiers who served in the Ninth have been found in Italy and the Balkans. The career records of several high-ranking Roman officers show them commanding the Ninth Legion. After 117 AD, this growing mountain of scattered evidence makes a single, catastrophic defeat in Scotland seem increasingly unlikely. Then there is the problem of silence. The complete annihilation of an entire legion was a massive military disaster. It would have been a humiliating blow to the reigning emperor, Hadrian. Yet Roman historians of the period, who were often incredibly detailed and gossipy, and who were not shy about criticizing emperors for their failures, are completely silent on the matter. There is no mention of a great battle, no record of a lost eagle, no lament for a vanished legion. For a society obsessed with history and honor, this silence is deafening. It suggests that whatever happened to the Ninth was not a single, dramatic event worthy of the history books. So, if the Ninth Legion wasn't wiped out in Scotland, what really happened to them? Historians now believe the truth is likely less cinematic, but far more historically plausible. There are two leading theories. The first, and most widely accepted, is that the Legion was slowly ground down and eventually disbanded. It's possible the Ninth did suffer heavy casualties in various unrecorded battles in Britain. Perhaps during the Second Jewish Revolt, known as the Bar Kokhba Revolt, where detachments from many legions were sent east. Weakened and under strength, the legion may have been deemed no longer effective. In the Roman army, a disgraced or depleted legion was sometimes quietly removed from the official army lists. Its name erased and its remaining soldiers merged into other units. In this scenario, the Ninth Legion didn't vanish in a blaze of glory, simply faded away, a victim of administrative action. The second theory is that the main body of the legion was transferred from the Rhine frontier to the far east of the empire, perhaps Cappadocia or Judea, to fight in the brutal wars against the Parthian Empire. It's here, thousands of miles from Britain, that they may have met their end in a different, unrecorded battle, or were again disbanded after suffering heavy losses. This would explain why they vanished from the records of the Western Empire. So why does the myth of the doomed last stand in Scotland persist, even against the growing evidence? The answer is simple. It is a far better story. The image of a heroic legion fighting to the last man against a horde of wild barbarians is more romantic, more tragic, and more compelling than a story about troop transfers and administrative paperwork. The mystery of the Ninth Legion is a perfect example of how we, as humans, engage with history. When faced with a gap in the historical record, we have a tendency to fill it with the most dramatic and meaningful story we can imagine. In the end, while we can be reasonably sure the Ninth was not annihilated in Caledonia, we still don't have a definitive record of their final fate. The lack of a clear death certificate is the mystery itself. And so, the legend of the Lost Legion endures a ghostly Roman army forever, marching into the mists of the Scottish Highlands, a timeless symbol of the mysteries that still lie buried in the past. At the Histify, we love a good mystery. If you do too, subscribe and hit the bell. We're dedicated to digging into the gaps in history to uncover the truth. This was the Histify. I'll see you in the next one.